I still remember the first time I stepped onto the campus of Hartley University, the ivy-covered walls, the quiet courtyards, the thrill in my chest. It was more than just a school. It was my ticket out of the small town where everyone knew. My parents had one favorite daughter, and it wasn't me. Out of the silence I learned to sit with at dinner tables where my achievements were politely nodded at. Then buried under the noise of my younger sister Emily's latest big moment, I had the grades, I had the determination. And thanks to the college fund my grandfather had started for me when I was born, I had the money, or so I thought. When the acceptance letter came in the mail, I didn't even scream. I just sat down on my bed, holding it like something sacred. Full tuition for fall semester confirmed, it said. I worked hard all summer, part-time at a cafe, tutoring high school kids at night. I was ready. Every spreadsheet, every list, every textbook ordered and waiting in my Amazon cart. And then, 2 weeks before orientation, my mom called me into the kitchen. She wasn't alone. Dad was sitting at the island, arms crossed. Emily sat beside them, her perfectly French manicured hands folded neatly, eyes darting down. "We need to talk," Mom said, her voice way too soft. My stomach dropped. "We had to make a few financial decisions," Dad said. "Your grandfather's fund. It wasn't as much as we expected." I blinked. "But the last time we checked, it was more than enough. You told me it had grown." "We were under pressure, honey," Mom cut in. "Emily's wedding came up so fast. Everything got so expensive, and you know how important first impressions are for her new in-laws." I stared at her. My mouth opened, closed. Emily didn't say a word. "You used it?" I whispered. "Just a portion," Mom rushed. "We thought, since you were getting a part-time job anyway, you used my college fund to buy her a wedding dress." The words exploded out of me like acid. "It wasn't just the dress," Emily finally spoke, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "There was the venue deposit, the flowers, the photographer package, and Mom said you weren't leaving until late fall anyway, so we thought it wouldn't matter that much." I couldn't feel my hands. "You thought it wouldn't matter that much." "No one's saying you can't go to college, sweetie," Mom added. "Just take a loan like everyone else. We all have to make sacrifices for family sometimes." Sacrifices. She got a horse-drawn carriage. I got debt. That night, I sat alone, in my room, staring at the acceptance letter that used to make me feel proud. Now it felt like a lie. I opened my laptop and searched for student loans, interest rates, deferrals, predatory lending red flags. I closed it again, and I started packing. No shouting, no slammed doors, no dramatic goodbyes. I left a note on my neatly made bed. "Since I have to make sacrifices, let me start with this one." Then I walked out the front door with one suitcase and the cash I'd saved from tutoring. I didn't go to college. Not that semester. Not that year. But I didn't go to her wedding either. They thought I was being dramatic. They didn't realize I was just getting started. I moved into a shared room above an old bookstore downtown. It was dusty, always smelled like burnt coffee and forgotten paper, but it was cheap, and the elderly woman who ran the store let me sleep there in exchange for helping her sort deliveries on Sundays. I told her my name was Lana, not my real name, not what they'd find on mail or search results. I needed to disappear for a while, Not for drama, for clarity, for space. At night, I cried sometimes, quietly, into the same pillow I folded like a suitcase on my first night out of my parents' home. Not for the money, for the realization. The realization that they never saw me. They only saw what they could take. I picked up shifts at the diner across the street, waitressed all morning, sometimes doubled for night shifts when Veronica called in sick again. The tips barely scraped past groceries, but every dollar I didn't have to borrow felt like defiance. I was invisible to them now, just as they always preferred. On Emily's wedding day, I posted a single Instagram story, a photo of the sky outside my window, gray, clouded, quiet, no caption. That night, my cousin Alyssa texted me, "Are you okay? You're not here." I didn't reply. She was the only one who noticed. A week later, I walked past the same community college I used to dismiss when I thought I had options. A flyer on the gate caught my eye. Its certification program, full scholarships available. Apply today. I tore it down and folded it into my pocket. Maybe I couldn't have Hartley, but maybe I didn't need Hartley. I needed a way out that didn't depend on anyone else ever again. 6 months later, I was up at 4:30 a.m. every day. Coffee, bus, class, diner, sleep. Repeat. I didn't go out. I didn't text anyone. I let my old life dissolve like sugar in a storm. By the time winter rolled around, I was certified in systems analysis and database security. I had 2 job offers and 0 apologies from anyone who claimed to love me. Emily posted about her honeymoon in Greece, white beaches, gold anklets. My perfect life. She looked beautiful. She looked untouchable. And I wondered if it ever crossed her mind that her wedding came at the cost of her sister's future. Maybe not. But I had no intention of staying buried. 2 years later. I was sitting in a glass office on the 14th floor of a fintech startup when I got the email. It was from my mother. Subject: family dinner. "Hi, sweetheart. It's been a while. Your sister and Matt just bought their first house. We're all so proud. We're having a little get-together on Sunday. Would be lovely if you came. Emily said she hasn't seen you in ages. You can even stay the night in the guest room if you want." Guest room in her house. The house they bought with a down payment loan that, rumor had it, came partially from the wedding gifts. Some of which, I later found out, came from my grandfather's trust. The one that wasn't just for college. It was supposed to be split, 60-40. I had the paperwork now. They never told me, never even said there was more money left. I didn't reply to the email. Not right away. But I didn't delete it either, because part of me had already started drafting a new plan, the beginning of something poetic. And this time, I wasn't just going to walk away, I was going to walk in. I wore gray, not black, too dramatic, not color, too forgiving. Just soft slate gray slacks and a fitted blazer. A shade neutral enough to say I'm not angry, just not here to be small. The front door opened before I even knocked. Oh my. "God? Claire?" Emily's voice rang out like a champagne pop. She threw her arms around me, pulling me into the same hallway where I used to leave muddy shoes and feel like a stain on her perfect life. "You actually came," she squealed, pulling back to look at me. "I told Mom you wouldn't. That you'd say you were busy or pretend you didn't see the email. I smiled. I got it. Took some time to decide. Her eyes flicked to my handbag. Sleek, leather, with a silver clasp. Expensive looking. Not wedding dress expensive, but not community college dropout either. Where are you working now? Again? She asked casually. I consult for fintech systems. Startups. Data integrity mostly. Oh, that sounds... Her smile stiffened. Important. It is. The house was bigger than I expected. Marble kitchen counters. Hardwood. Floors. Walls painted that sterile white-gray everyone on Pinterest seemed to love. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a showroom. And they were definitely showing off. Mom was in the kitchen when I walked in. She paused mid-chop, carrot in hand. Knife hovering. Claire. Her voice held that tone, the one that tiptoed between guilt and ownership. I nodded. Hey. She wiped her hands and awkwardly moved toward me for a hug. It felt like being embraced by the past. Warm, tight, and completely insincere. We've missed you, she said, patting my back twice like a manager at a retirement party. Dad was in the den, watching golf, pretending not to notice me. Fine. Emily poured wine, chattered, gave me a tour of the house. We got this rug from Turkey, she beamed. Custom imported. Pretty, I said, running a hand across it. From the registry? She stiffened slightly. Some of it was leftover gift money. We were lucky. Sure you were. After dinner, we sat around the table like a family. Dad brought out old photo albums. Mom reminisced about how quiet I used to be. Emily mentioned how stressed she was planning her baby shower next month. We're doing it. At the house, obviously, she added, rubbing her flat stomach. Of course, I said. Is the guest room still free? They all looked at me. What do you mean? Emily asked. Well, I figured if I'm staying over, it might be nice to see where I'll be sleeping. A pause. Right, Mom said too fast. Yes, of course. You'll love it. We redid it last year. She stood quickly, leading me down the hallway. The room was small. Too small for a grown woman small. A twin bed, a dresser that looked borrowed from a children's set, a framed print that said, "Family is everything." I laughed. What's funny? Mom asked behind me. I turned to her. Nothing. I just always wondered what it would feel like to be a guest in a home I partially paid for. Her lips twitched. That's not fair, Claire. No, I said calmly. But neither was stripping my future for a dress she wore once. Her eyes dropped. Things were hard. You don't know. The pressure we were under. I nodded. And now things are good, right? Yes, but then I'm happy for you. I dropped my overnight bag on the bed. She turned, unsure if she should leave or defend herself. She chose to leave. That night I didn't sleep much, not because of the mattress, because of what was sitting in the envelope inside my purse. A copy of the trust document. My grandfather's signature. His written request that I receive the majority of his education trust. That it only be used for tuition, housing, or investments in her future. Not bridal parties. Not Pinterest perfect flower arches. Not Turkish rugs. They had violated it, and I had proof. I wasn't sure how far I'd take it yet. But I knew one thing. This family didn't believe I could hold power. They thought I'd come here to make peace. But I came to prepare. It started with a quiet phone call the following Monday morning. Not from home. Not from Emily. Not from anyone who would miss me when the walls started to crack. I called Danielle Troyer, trust and estates attorney. A quiet, sharp woman I'd met briefly at a networking event a year ago. She wore dark lipstick, didn't blink much, and talked like she filed lawsuits in her sleep. I remembered her card. She remembered me too. I have documentation, I said. My grandfather left behind a trust meant for educational purposes. I believe it was accessed, illegally, by my parents and used for non-permitted expenses. There was a pause. Then the slow scrape of a pen on paper. I assume you're looking for quiet leverage before public action. Exactly. We met 2 days later in a corner booth at a quiet French cafe. I handed her the envelope. She scanned, the paperwork with a lawyer's precision, flipping pages silently. When she reached the distribution clause, the one explicitly naming me as primary beneficiary and excluding marital or event-based expenses, she looked up. This is airtight. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. She asked for copies of my financial aid records, college application history, any written communication with my family referencing the trust. I had it all. Because broken girls don't throw things away. They archive. By the following week, she sent the first letter. It wasn't aggressive, just formal. A request for clarification and compliance review regarding the execution of educational trust. Claire Bennett, versus estate of Walter Bennett. It went to my parents' home address, certified.signature. Required. They got it on a Wednesday. I know because Emily called me Thursday morning screaming. What the hell are you doing? I'm asking questions. You're going to humiliate them. You're going to tear this family apart over a few $1,000s? It wasn't a few thousand. And you tore it apart the second you zipped up a $6,000 dress paid for with money meant to build my future. You're being spiteful. No, I said. I'm being strategic. She went silent. And then she hung up. That night, Mom called. Not crying, not apologizing, just disappointed. That special brand of maternal manipulation that made you feel like you owed the people who stole from you. This will damage everything, Claire. It already did, I said softly. 2 years ago. We were trying to make the best decision for the family. No. You were trying to make Emily look good in a white dress. And you gambled with something that wasn't yours. A week later, I received a call from Danielle. They responded. They're asking for mediation. I blinked, which means they're scared. They don't want it going to court. They're hoping to settle quietly. A flicker of vindication curled in my chest like smoke. Do we mediate? No, she said. We let them offer. Then we decide what we want. The next letter came from their side. It offered $18,000, a fraction of the trust's original amount, a fraction of what they spent on Emily's wedding alone. I rejected it. They offered $30,000. I rejected that too. Then $50,000. I didn't even flinch. Claire, they want this to go away, Danielle said, glancing at the counteroffer. What's your end goal? I looked out the cafe window. Emily had a house, a car, a perfect public image, and a baby on the way. My name had never been on a deed, but my money had. I want the house, I said. Danielle raised an eyebrow. Want a lien filed against the property, I clarified. Until restitution is made for the full amount of the trust. I want the paperwork filed, and I want them to feel it. Danielle filed the paperwork on a Friday. By Monday afternoon, the county clerk's records were updated, and just like that, Claire Bennett was officially listed as a lien holder on Matthew and Emily Carter's home. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud, but it was permanent. Until satisfied, that lien would sit like a shadow over every refinance, every loan, every potential buyer. It didn't take long. On Tuesday morning, Emily showed up outside my building. I watched her through the narrow window at the buzz-in door, standing there in expensive workout gear, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown of denial. I buzzed her in. I didn't offer coffee. You filed a lien on my house? She snapped, stepping into my apartment like she owned it. No, I filed a lien on my trust money. Your house just happened to be bought with it. You're trying to ruin my life. No, I'm holding you accountable for helping ruin mine. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You walked down an aisle wearing a $6,000 dress. I walked into debt and silence, and not once did you ask where it came from. You could have said something. I did, when I left. She dropped into the chair across from me, suddenly smaller. It's Matt's name on the mortgage, too. His family helped. This is going to affect his credit, his reputation. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to know what the money really paid for. You're heartless, I smiled. You're not the first person to call me that. Usually, it happens right before they hand me a check. A week later, I received a text from my mother. Please, don't do this to your sister. Think about the baby. The baby. The one whose future I was now responsible for financially destabilizing. The irony made my chest tighten, not with guilt, but with clarity. She had a baby. I had ambition. I would build something. She inherited everything, and still needed someone else to hold the walls up. Danielle forwarded me their next offer. $91,000. It included penalties, legal fees, and an extra $10K to make the lien go away quietly. Do you want to accept? She asked. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I visited the house. I drove by at dusk, the golden hour peeling light across the windows, highlighting the flaws in the new paint. There was a crack in the upper right shutter. A crooked garden gnome half sunken into the soil. The mailbox slightly rusted. It looked tired already. That night, I sent back a formal response. Restitution accepted upon full payment of $110,000 to include educational damages, breach of trust, and non-disclosure of inherited funds. Public record may remain for up to 1 year unless otherwise negotiated. It wasn't just about the money. It was about marking the truth. Even if it faded, there'd be a legal record, a scar on paper, the same way they left one on me. Emily didn't call. Mom did. Cried this time. Said I was destroying the family. I told her the family had been quietly eating its youngest for years. I just stopped serving myself on the plate. Danielle called again 2 weeks later. They agreed. Funds will be wired within 5 business days. And the lien? We'll withdraw it once cleared, unless you'd like to leave it open another month or so, just for visibility. I almost laughed. No. Let them sweat, but not suffer. Kind of you. I'm not kind, I said. I'm just done being invisible. The money arrived. It hit my account like a quiet miracle, a whisper of dignity returning. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell friends. I didn't buy anything flashy or stupid. I just opened a new account and started planning something that would never again need permission from people who never saw me. The wire transfer cleared at 9:42 a.m. on a gray Tuesday, $110,000. No note, no apology, no contact. It just arrived, clean, clinical, like nothing happened. But I felt it. Not just in my account, but in my name. The same name they once erased from college dreams and family conversations was now etched into legal records, bank logs, and the hush of their resentment. They paid me. For what they took. For what they assumed. I'd never fight for, and I wasn't done. I didn't splurge. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I opened an LLC, ClearPath Digital Risk Solutions. Simple, strong, no emotion, just strategy. I filed the paperwork within a week. With my IT certification, consulting experience, and quiet reputation in tech circles, I already had 2 clients lined up. Women-led startups looking for cybersecurity compliance. They couldn't afford the big firms, but they needed someone who knew how to play defense. I knew how to protect what mattered, because I knew what it felt like to lose everything quietly. I poured $40,000 into the business. Legal. Branding. Small but fierce freelance team. $20,000 I kept in a savings account, untouched. That was my nothing burns twice fund. The rest, I invested in me online coursework, a rented studio co-working space, a new laptop, and a clean-cut website that made me look like a veteran in the game. I was building something real now, not in spite of them, but because of them. They had made me start from zero. Now I was going to make it so big they'd have to Google me to keep up. A few weeks later, my cousin Alyssa messaged me. Hey. So Emily's been posting really weird stuff on her private stories. Passive-aggressive family is betrayal kind of posts. I think people are asking questions. Also, did you really sue them? Or is she being dramatic? I didn't. Reply. I just sent a thumbs up emoji, then muted the chat. Another week passed. Then came the call, from my father. He hadn't spoken to me in over a year. Not since I left without a word. Claire, he said, the name like gravel in his throat. You made your point. I stayed quiet. He sighed. Emily's having a hard time. All this stress isn't good for the pregnancy. She's embarrassed. People are asking why the lien was on the house. She should be grateful I didn't make it public. That's not what this family does. Really? I asked, voice steady. Because this family had no issue funneling college funds into floral arches and imported fondant. A pause. Your mother is very upset. She was upset when I was born, I snapped, because I wasn't the one she could parade in white. He didn't argue. He just sighed again. We're having a dinner in a few weeks, family only. Just us. If you want to come, no hard feelings. Hard feelings? I almost laughed. I didn't answer. I just wrote the date down. Because if they wanted me there, I would show up. Not for food, not for forgiveness, but for finality. The public, undeniable shift. The moment they realized the invisible daughter was now the one with power, poise, and absolutely no fear of being left out ever again. The night of the family dinner, I wore white. Not a wedding gown, not lace or tulle. Just a sleek ivory suit, tailored to fit like second skin. Crisp, unbothered, unapologetic. It was subtle, but it said everything. I was no longer the girl they pitied for missing out. I was the woman they had underestimated, and now couldn't look away from. The front door opened before I knocked. Again. This time, it was Mom. She blinked, taking in the outfit. The heels, the confidence. "You look sharp," she said, with forced warmth. "I dress for what I expect." She didn't know what that meant. But she let me in anyway. The house looked the same. Too perfect. Too curated, as if chaos hadn't touched it in years. But I knew better. Beneath the marble and chandeliers was a crumbling foundation, built on favoritism, fear, and fake smiles. Tonight, I wasn't going to tear it down. Just show them the cracks. Emily was already seated at the table when I walked in. Hair curled, belly visible beneath her designer maternity blouse, a frozen smile. "Hi, Claire." I nodded. "Emily." Matt didn't look up. Dad was pouring wine. "Merlot for them." "Water for me." "Still not drinking?" he asked. "No," I said. "I like to stay clear." He nodded, not understanding that I wasn't talking about alcohol. Dinner was awkward, polite chewing, small talk, mentions of real estate, markets and baby names. Nobody brought up the lien, nobody mentioned the money, nobody dared say the word lawsuit. Until Emily did. Of course. "So, you've been busy," she said, twirling pasta like she was on camera. "I have. A business, clients, website. I saw your photo on LinkedIn. You're really out there now." "I am." She set down her fork. "And you're okay with how you got there?" Mom flinched. Dad cleared his throat. I smiled. I built it. Every inch. Every hour. Every contract. "With money from us," she snapped. "No. With money from me. You just had it temporarily hijacked." "You humiliated me, Claire. You stole from me. We didn't know the terms. You didn't care about the terms." Silence. I let it sit. I wanted them to squirm in it. "You've always resented me," Emily hissed, her voice dropping. "No," I said quietly. "I loved you. I defended you. I protected you." Her eyes widened. "I never asked for that. No. But you took it. The same way you took everything else." I leaned in. "You all decided I was strong enough to survive without help. So, you gave everything to the one who would fall apart without a photo op." Mom opened her mouth. I stopped her. "And you—" I turned to her. Turned a blind eye to it all. "You told me to take a loan and be grateful. Now I'm the only one at this table who could actually pay for someone else's future." No one spoke. Dad pushed his plate forward. "I think that's enough." "No," I said, standing. "This is enough. You wanted me here so you could pretend everything was okay, so you could say we moved on. But I didn't move on. I moved up." I pulled a small envelope from my purse, set it beside Emily's water glass. "What's this?" she asked, hesitant. Your baby registry, I said softly. I saw it online. She blinked. You got me something? No, I said, walking to the door. I got me something. I turned back once. It's a donation receipt. In your baby's name. To a girls' scholarship foundation. Full tuition for 2 young women. Because some little girls shouldn't have to fight their families for the right to dream. And then I walked out. No yelling, no tears, no slam of the door, just heels clicking on hardwood, and the weight of 1,000 unsaid things finally lifted. 6 months later, I was standing backstage at a Women in Tech Summit in San Diego, holding a microphone and a speech with a name tag that read, Claire Bennett, founder and CEO, ClearPath Digital. The auditorium lights were warm. The audience was packed, all waiting for me, to speak, to lead, to be seen. A woman who once cried over an acceptance letter she never got to use was now here, teaching others how to protect what's theirs before anyone else decides they deserve it more. You don't need a head start, I told the crowd. You need proof that you're allowed to stop being small. Applause. Somewhere inside me, a girl at a kitchen table, stunned into silence, finally smiled. After the event, I checked my phone. One new message, from a name I hadn't seen in months. Emily. Can we talk? It's about the baby. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I opened the photo she'd attached. A soft, sleeping newborn wrapped in pastel blue. A full head of hair. Tiny, curled fingers. A name tag that read, Elias Carter. There was no caption, just her reaching out. Not as a sister trying to defend herself, but as a mother now wondering what kind of world she'd built for her child. I stared at the screen for a long time. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. Just clear. I had learned the most valuable lesson betrayal could ever teach. You do not owe anyone your silence when your story was stolen. I typed back, he's beautiful. I hope he grows up in a house where no one ever tells him his dreams don't matter. Then I turned my phone off and walked into a dinner with investors who respected me. Into a boardroom where no one confused my generosity with weakness. Into a future that had my name on it, and mine alone. Because when they used my college fund to buy her wedding dress, they weren't just robbing me. They were building the fire I'd use to light my own empire. And I did. Without a word. Without forgiveness. Without needing anyone to clap.